Close your eyes and imagine this for a moment. A man so pure, so gentle, so humble, so soft-spoken, so modest in his speech, so careful with his actions, that even the angels of Allah were shy in his presence. This was Uthman Ibn Affan, Radiyallahu anhu, a man promised Jannah while walking on this earth, a man whose generosity strengthened the Muslim Ummah, a man whose wealth saved the Muslims again and again, a man whose heart trembled whenever the Qur'an was recited, a man whose character melted even the harshest enemies. He was the man Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam trusted in the most delicate matters, the man who married not one but two daughters of the Prophet, earning him the title Dhul-Noorayn, the possessor of two lights, a title no other human ever received. But behind this greatness, behind this honor, behind this purity, was a life filled with sacrifice, heartbreak, trials, persecution, and one of the most painful deaths in Islamic history, a tragedy that shook the Ummah forever. And today, you are going to hear this story in a way you've never heard it before. But before we begin, ask yourself this: if a man like Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, so beloved, so gentle, so pure, could go through pain and suffering for the sake of Allah, what about you? What excuse do you have for delaying your salah? What excuse do you have for ignoring the Qur'an? What excuse do you have for not striving to purify your heart? This story is not entertainment. It is a mirror Allah is placing in front of you. If you walk away unchanged, then what good is knowledge? Uthman Ibn Affan, Radiyallahu anhu, was born into the powerful Umayyad clan, one of the wealthiest families in Quraysh. But unlike the wealthy elite around him, who were known for arrogance, pride, and social superiority, Uthman was the opposite. He was known for gentleness, soft speech, extreme modesty, never raising his voice, never harming anyone, never drinking alcohol even before Islam, never bowing to idols even before the Qur'an was revealed. He lived with the purity of someone being prepared by Allah for greatness. His mother was Arwa bint Qurayz, and his grandmother was the sister of Abdul Muttalib, meaning he was closely connected to the Prophet's lineage. He was wealthy, extremely wealthy, but unlike other merchants, he made his money without cheating, without lying, without exploitation. People trusted him. They loved him. They came to him for advice. He had everything a man could want: status, wealth, reputation, peace. Yet, something inside him stirred. He looked at his people, the idols, the tribal feuds, the meaningless rituals, and he felt empty. And that emptiness would lead him to something remarkable. Uthman hears the message of Islam. When rumors spread in Makkah that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was calling people to a new faith, Uthman was curious. He had just returned from a business trip when his close friend Abu Bakr, Radiyallahu anhu, told him, "Uthman, this message is the truth." Abu Bakr described the Prophet's character, the revelation, the call to worship one God. Uthman's heart opened instantly. He didn't need debates. He didn't need miracles. He didn't ask endless questions. The truth simply felt right. And before sunset that day, Uthman ibn Affan Radiyallahu anhu became one of the first Muslims in history, a decision that would cost him everything, but earn him Jannah. Before we continue, if seeing the early Muslims give up everything for Allah doesn't shake your heart, then wallahi, you need this reminder more than anyone. Don't scroll away. Don't ignore this video. Don't be from the people who hear the truth and do nothing with it. Take a second, like this video so more people hear these stories. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and if Allah has opened your heart even a little, share this video with someone who needs it. Your click might be the reason someone returns to Allah today. Uthman ibn Affan, Radiyallahu anhu, was loved by Quraysh, until the day he said, La ilaha illallah. From that moment, the elite who once respected him turned against him. His own uncle, Al-Hakam ibn Abi al-As, tied him with ropes, dragged him on the ground, and beat him repeatedly, shouting, You have abandoned the religion of your forefathers. But not once did Uthman raise his voice. Not once did he fight back. Not once did he insult the abusers. His patience was so shocking that even some of the pagans began to say, Leave him, he is harmless. But he wasn't harmless, he was unshakable. Migration to Abyssinia, the journey of sacrifice. When the torture in Makkah became unbearable, the Prophet ﷺ allowed some Muslims to flee to Abyssinia. Uthman and his wife Ruqayya bint Rasulillah, Radiyallahu anha, were among the first to leave. Imagine it, a man who had everything, money, status, honor, now sneaking out of his own city under the cover of darkness, just to practice his faith in peace. But Allah was preparing him. When they reached Abyssinia, the Christian king An-Najashi welcomed them with protection, dignity, and justice. Uthman and Ruqayya lived in peace there, until a false rumor spread that Quraysh had accepted Islam. They traveled all the way back to Makkah, only to discover the rumor was a lie. And Quraysh was now worse than before, yet Uthman remained patient. He remained firm. He remained loyal to Islam. The death of Ruqayya, Radiyallahu anha. When the Battle of Badr was nearing, Uthman prepared to join the Muslims on the battlefield. But Ruqayya, Radiyallahu anha, became severely ill. The Prophet ﷺ looked at Uthman and said, Stay with your wife. And so Uthman stayed behind, watching the woman he loved fade away, while every other companion fought in the greatest battle of early Islam. On the very same day, the Muslims returned victorious from Badr. Ruqayya, Radiyallahu anha, was buried. Uthman wept so intensely that even the companions could not console him. And the Prophet ﷺ comforted him, saying, Whoever resembles Uthman in character, Allah will shelter him with his mercy. Marriage to Kulthum, Radiyallahu anha. After Ruqayya's death, the Prophet ﷺ married Uthman to his second daughter, Kulthum, Radiyallahu anha. This is when he earned the title, Dhul-Noorayn, the possessor of two lights. No other human being in history married two daughters of a prophet. This was not just an honor, it was a testimony to Uthman's purity, kindness, and sincerity. Some Israeliyat narrations say, the angels felt shy around Uthman more than anyone else except the prophets. This is not from authentic hadith collections. It appears in later historical works influenced by Judeo-Christian narrations. We include it here only as historical color, not as verified fact. If Uthman could lose his home, his wealth, and the love of his life, and still remain firm, then what excuse do you have? You can't even hit the like button? You can't even subscribe? You can't even share a reminder that might save someone's heart? If these sacrifices don't move us to action, Jama'ah, then we are becoming spiritually numb, and that numbness is more dangerous than any hardship Uthman faced. So before we continue, click like, subscribe, share this story. Let your action be the sadaqah jariyah that reaches you on the day when nothing else will matter. The generosity that held Islam together. When Uthman Ibn Affan, Radiyallahu anhu, moved to Medina, Islam was rising but the community was struggling. There was poverty, there was hunger, and there was a desperate need for someone who could fund the survival of the Ummah. That someone was Uthman, the well of Ruma, the day Uthman bought paradise. Medina had a well called Bir Ruma, owned by a Jewish man who charged high prices. The Muslims suffered, children cried from thirst, Women spent hours carrying water, and poor families drank in rationed drops. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Who will buy the well of Ruma and give free water to the Muslims? For him is a fountain in paradise." Sunan al-Tirmidhi. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, went to the owner. "How much for the well?" "Too much. You cannot afford it." And so began a negotiation that would echo through history. Eventually, Uthman bought half of the well for an enormous price. Then he bought the other half. Then he opened it for free for every Muslim, stone rich or poor. The Prophet ﷺ smiled and said, "This is the best charity ever given." To this day, the land of Uthman's well still generates revenue used for charity in Medina. His charity outlived entire empires, and it will outlive us, the expansion of Masjid an-Nabawi. As Islam grew, the mosque of the Prophet became too small. People prayed outside in the heat. There was no space for classes, gatherings, or worship. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Who will expand the mosque for the Muslims? For him is a house in Jannah." Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, purchased the land beside the masjid with his own wealth, then donated it entirely to the Ummah. No conditions, no nameplate, no recognition, just sincerity. The Battle of Tabuk, the financial backbone of the army. Tabuk was one of the most difficult expeditions, hotter than any battle before, further than any journey before, and the Muslims had very little to prepare with. The Prophet ﷺ called for donations. Some companions brought dates, some brought small coins, some brought nothing but tears because they had nothing to give. Uthman stood up and donated 300 camels fully equipped, 50 horses, 1,000 dinars and more, until the Prophet said, "Nothing Uthman does after today will harm him." Tirmidhi. This wasn't an exaggeration. This was the Prophet's actual statement, a testimony of Uthman's sincerity. He didn't just support Islam, he funded it. Some Israeliyat narrations claim, when Uthman gave his charity at Tabuk, the sky trembled and angels descended in rows. This is not found in authentic hadith sources. It appears in later Judeo-Christian influenced manuscripts, included only as Israeliyat, not as verified history. The Qur'an and Uthman, a heart soft as silk. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, was known for reciting the entire Qur'an in a single night, crying whenever he read verses about the fire. Never committing adultery, drinking, or worshipping idols even before Islam. Being so pure that angels were shy in his presence. Authentic hadith, Sahih Muslim. He was the most gentle of men, yet one of the most powerful supporters of Islam. His heart was firm, his wealth was open, his loyalty was absolute. Uthman gave millions for Islam. You can't even give one click. He built wells, he built mosques, he equipped armies, and all we're asking is, click like, subscribe, share this video. If we can't honor these giants with a simple action, then what does that say about our hearts? Don't let your laziness be the reason Islamic content dies in the algorithm. Do your part, just as Uthman did his. Under Abu Bakr, Radiyallahu anhu, the quiet pillar in the early caliphate. After the death of the Prophet, ﷺ, Uthman didn't seek position or authority. He supported Abu Bakr wholeheartedly. His roles included 1. Writing and preserving revelation. He continued being among the scribes of the Qur'an, a role the Prophet trusted him with. 2. A key advisor, Abu Bakr consulted him often, especially on financial and administrative issues. Uthman's wealth, business experience, and calm temperament made him one of the most reliable voices in the government. 3. Loyalty when others hesitated. During the wars of apostasy, Rida, Some people hesitated out of fear. Uthman stood firmly with Abu Bakr, Radiyallahu anhu, supporting the Caliph's decision to fight false prophets and rebels, not with a sword, but with certainty. Under Umar, Radiyallahu anhu, the reserved genius behind the scenes, Umar, Radiyallahu anhu, relied heavily on Uthman's judgment. In fact, Umar said, "Uthman is the most trustworthy of us in judgment." So what roles did he play? 1. Member of Umar's Shura, highest council. Umar created a select advisory group, basically his cabinet, and Uthman was part of it. Every major decision, war, governors, policies, expansion, Umar consulted Uthman personally. 2. The soft balance to Umar's intensity. Umar was firm. Uthman was gentle. This balance helped shape policies that were strong and compassionate. 3. Expansion-era strategist. During Umar's rule, the Muslim world expanded massively. Persia, Egypt, Jerusalem, Syria, North Africa. Umar often delegated administrative and treasury-related responsibilities to Uthman because of his reputation for fairness and lack of greed. 4. The six-man Shura Council. When Umar was stabbed, he appointed 6 men to choose the next Khalifa. Uthman was one of the 6. Ali, Radiyallahu anhu, was one of the 6. This alone shows the status of Uthman, and the majority eventually chose him. The beginning of his Khilafah: gentle hand, pure heart, heavy crown. When Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, was chosen, he didn't celebrate. He was seen crying. Why? He said, "This is a responsibility. It is not something to be proud of." He knew what was coming. He knew the Ummah was now massive, stretching across continents. And he knew that he would be held accountable by Allah for every injustice done under his rule. But he accepted the role out of obedience, humility, and fear of Allah. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, didn't rule the Ummah like a king. He ruled like a servant, a Khalifa who walked the streets at night not to show authority but to check if anyone was hungry. You'd see him carrying food on his own shoulders, delivering it in the dark so people wouldn't feel embarrassed. This is the man people would later accuse of hoarding wealth. This is the man some would claim was too soft. Soft? He was soft with people, but steel in front of Allah. Massive expansion, lands opening like pages of a book under him. North Africa became Muslim. Cyprus opened. Armenia opened. Parts of Persia stabilized. The Muslim navy was born. The Ummah grew so rapidly that even historians say Islam became a global power under Uthman. Armies were winning, wealth was flowing, justice was spreading, and people thought this golden age would last forever. But success has a dark shadow. And Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, didn't know that shadow was already growing behind him. The Qur'an standardization, the project that saved Islam had spread to so many lands that tribes read the Qur'an differently based on dialect. Arguments broke out, accusations started. A soldier once heard someone reciting Qur'an in a different qira'ah and said, "You're wrong." The other replied, "No, you are wrong." Imagine that. Muslims accusing each other of reciting Allah's words incorrectly. News reached Uthman. He didn't waste time. He gathered the Qur'an committee, the very same scribes who wrote Revelation under the Prophet's supervision. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, made one decision that protected the Qur'an for 1,400 plus years. Let us unite the Ummah on a single written mushaf. Ali, Radiyallahu anhu, later said, "If I had been in Uthman's place, I would have done exactly what he did." The standard mushaf was written. Copies were sent across the Muslim world. Old personal manuscripts were respectfully withdrawn. And because of Uthman, you read the Qur'an today without confusion. One Ummah, one book, one Qur'an. If you benefit from a single verse you read today, a single tear you shed, a single sujood you make because of the Qur'an. You owe a piece of that to Uthman. And right here, this is where you, the viewer, need to check your heart. Uthman saved the Qur'an for you. He unified the Ummah for you. He spent his entire life making sure Islam reached your hands pure. And you can't even give one like? You can't subscribe to keep Islamic history alive? You scroll freely because he fought corruption, fitna, chaos, and funded Islam with his own wealth. Honor that sacrifice. Don't be the one who takes from these legends but gives nothing back. Support this channel so these stories don't vanish into the algorithm. The storm begins. Whispers around the Ummah. Now here, this is where the fitna begins, slowly, quietly, like a poison spreading before anyone notices. And Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, is about to face the darkest chapter of his life, one that would shake the Ummah forever. The fitna, the first poison in the Ummah. It didn't start with swords. It didn't start with armies. It started with words, whispers, rumors, letters written in the dark, carried by people who smiled in the day and betrayed at night. The Ummah was huge now, spread across continents, and in far-off lands where new Muslims didn't personally know the companions, a liar found an opportunity. His name, Abdullah ibn Saba, not a companion, not a scholar, not a figure of respect. A professional agitator, he traveled from city to city, Basra, Kufa, Egypt, planting doubts like seeds. Uthman favors his relatives. Uthman changed the Qur'an. Uthman is replacing governors for power. Ali should be the true leader. Complete lies. But lies spread faster than truth, especially when people want drama. Some people resisted him, others entertained him, others listened with curiosity. And slowly, what began as whispers became tension. Uthman's response. The soft heart of a lion. Here's the painful part. Every rumor could have been crushed instantly. How? He could have punished the instigators, arrested the slanderers, sent troops to silence the rebels, displayed authority like a ruler, but he didn't. Why? Because Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, refused to spill Muslim blood. He refused to start a civil war over his reputation. He chose to be slandered, instead of letting a single Muslim die defending him. That's not weakness, that's moral strength. Ali Radiyallahu anhu and others advised him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, these men are lying. Stand firm and deal with them. But Uthman said, I will not be the first to split this ummah. Tell me, how many leaders today would choose humiliation over conflict? Not many, but Uthman wasn't chasing power, he was chasing Allah. The rebels arrive at Medina. A group of men from Egypt march to Medina, not scholars, not companions, just rebels fueled by gossip. They demanded to speak with Uthman. Did he hide? Did he send guards? No. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, opened his door and invited them in. He listened with patience that would break your heart. Every accusation they brought, he answered with clarity. You replaced this governor. Yes, because of corruption, and the new man is better. You banned this. No, that was a lie attributed to me. You kept wealth for your family. I swear by Allah, everything I own is from my own business. One by one, their doubts fell apart. The rebels left Medina embarrassed. Some even apologized. They turned back toward Egypt, and for a moment it looked like peace had returned. But the fitna wasn't done. Someone, a saboteur, sent a forged letter to the rebels in the name of Uthman, claiming, Kill the leaders among you when you return. They thought Uthman betrayed them. Their anger exploded. They turned back to Medina, this time with fury. The siege, the Khalifa with no guards. The rebels surrounded Uthman's house. The people of Medina wanted to fight. Ali Zubair, Talha, Aisha, Hassan, and Hussein, the youth of Medina. The companions of Badr, they all said, "Let us defend you. We will fight until the last breath." But Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, said, "I will not shed a drop of Muslim blood for my sake." Imagine that, the third greatest man in the entire Ummah, the compiler of the Qur'an, the financer of the Prophet's army, the son-in-law of Rasulullah twice, surrounded by rebels, and he tells everyone to put down their swords. This is why the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "Shall I not feel shy before a man whom the angels feel shy of?" Not because Uthman was weak, but because he was too pure for violence, too humble for revenge, too soft for tyranny. These rebels fought Uthman, attacked him, betrayed him. Don't be like them. Don't fight the legacy of these giants by ignoring their stories. Don't let this channel die quietly while you enjoy the knowledge for free. Hit like, subscribe, share, give back something for the history you're benefiting from. If you don't support Islamic content, then who will? The final hours of Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu. The rebels had surrounded his home for days. No food, no water, no freedom to leave, no freedom for anyone to enter. But they couldn't touch him, not as long as the companions stood outside guarding the doors. So the rebels started provoking. They attacked children carrying water. They insulted the wives of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They threw stones into the house of the Caliph. And yet, Uthman, radiyallahu anhu, kept reciting Qur'an, hour after hour, verse after verse, calm, like a man waiting to meet someone he loves. The companions begged to fight Ali, radiyallahu anhu, sent his sons Hassan and Hussein to guard the door. Zubair and Talha sent their sons. Abdullah ibn Zubair stood there with a sword saying, "By Allah, they will only reach you over my dead body." But Uthman came to the doorway, old, thin, exhausted, and said, "Put down your weapons. For the sake of Allah, I set you all free from defending me." He didn't want their blood spilled for him. He preferred to die himself, rather than cause the death of any Muslim, even a rebel. This is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him Halim, the most forbearing man of the Ummah. The night before the martyrdom, that night, Uthman radiyallahu anhu fell asleep reciting Qur'an, and he saw a dream. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. He saw Omar radiyallahu anhu. They were smiling, and the Prophet said to him, "O Uthman, break your fast with us tomorrow." He woke up crying, not out of fear, but relief. He knew it was over. He knew tomorrow was the day he'd return to the Prophet. The day it happened. It was Friday. Uthman sat in his home reciting Surah Al-Baqarah. He reached the verse, "Fasa yakfikahumullah." Allah will be enough for you against them. And with that verse on his tongue, the rebels broke into the house. They jumped over the back wall. They pushed aside the guards who were forbidden from fighting. They stormed the room of an old man holding a mushaf. His wife Naila screamed. His servant tried to shield him. But Uthman simply raised his hand and said, "I ask you by Allah, do not spill my blood." But they struck him anyway. One blade sliced his forehead. His blood dripped onto the mushaf. To this day, manuscripts of the Qur'an show a reddish mark next to that verse. Allah will be enough for you against them. His wife tried to defend him, and they cut off her fingers. He fell forward onto the Qur'an, and his soul left his body while the book of Allah was beneath him. The third greatest man in the Ummah, murdered not by Romans, not by Persians, but by people who claimed to be Muslim. Medina shook like an earthquake when the news spread. Ali cried until his beard was soaked. Aisha collapsed in grief. The companions were shattered. Islam had lost the man the angels were shy of, and the Ummah would never be the same again. This moment didn't just kill Uthman, it opened the door to a wave of trials that would shake the world. Uthman died protecting the Qur'an. He died refusing to spill Muslim blood. He died with patience that most of us can't even imagine. And you're still watching for free? No like, no subscribe, no share. Come on. Honor him with something. If Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, could give his life for Islam, you can give 3 seconds of a click for Islamic content. Hit like, subscribe, share this video. If you don't support this work now, don't be surprised when stories like this disappear from the internet. The legacy of Uthman Radiyallahu anhu. When Uthman Radiyallahu anhu was buried that night in the darkness, there were no crowds, no ceremony, no massive funeral. The city that once drank from his wells, ate from his generosity, memorized a Qur'an he preserved, was now too engulfed in chaos to honor him properly. But Allah honors whom He wills, and time has revealed what people failed to see then. Uthman wasn't just a Caliph. He was a guardian of the Qur'an, a giant of generosity, a man whose modesty reached the angels. Sahih Muslim. Every Qur'an you read today, every mushaf printed, every hafid reciting in any corner of the world, all of it traces back to one man, Uthman Ibn Affan, Radiyallahu anhu, the compiler of the Qur'an. He protected Allah's book, and Allah protected his legacy for all eternity. The lessons we can't ignore. 1. Power doesn't corrupt. The pure Uthman ruled an empire larger than Rome, yet he lived like a poor man. He slept on a mat. He wore simple clothes. He ate basic food. While others chased the dunya, he spent his wealth like he was trying to lighten his grave. 2. Gentleness is not weakness. People today think strength means raising your voice, flexing your ego, clapping back at insults. But the strongest people in history were the gentlest. Uthman could have ordered the army to crush the rebels. He refused. He would rather die than see Muslim blood spilled for him. That is strength. 3. Fitna begins small and grows massive. The entire tragedy started with whispers, tiny lies, small rumors, questions of why him, a seed of jealousy. Fitna rarely arrives like a lion. It enters quietly and then devours everything. Even today, one wrong comment, one rumor, one unverified post can destroy reputations. Uthman's death teaches us, be very careful with what you repeat. You might be fueling a fire you can't extinguish. 4. You don't need to die to be forgotten, but Allah never forgets the sincere. History erased kings and emperors, but Uthman's name still lives, not because of power, but because of sincerity. You and I won't be remembered for our hustle, our careers, our money. But if you give something sincerely for Allah, even if the world never sees it, Allah will write it in a place where no one can erase it. Look, you just sat through the life of a man who gave his wealth, his comfort, and his life for Islam. Uthman, Radiyallahu anhu, didn't give excuses. So what's your excuse? You can't revive the past, but you can revive your heart. Start the 7-day journey from darkness to light. If you've been spiritually numb, disconnected, or stuck in sin, don't wait for a tragedy to wake you up. And if you care about keeping these stories alive, like, subscribe, share, not for me. For the algorithm? Sure, but really, for the Ummah. Because if the Ummah won't support Islamic content, YouTube isn't going to magically push it. Don't be the reason this work dies unseen. Be the reason someone finds Islam again.